you're here to find some underappreciated shows or maybe hear me praise a few old favorites, you've come to the right place. This is Restless in Peace, and today we're spotlighting Modest Heroes. I'm Fennec, and I've been an anime fan for almost a decade and have watched hundreds of shows. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with friends if you haven't seen the Modest Heroes. Spoilers ahead. Modest Heroes is a collection of 3 short films by Studio Ponok. Ponok describes these shorts as tales of modest heroes of our times. Now, if you want to go hardcore definition of what a hero even is, it's anyone who's admired for pretty much anything. As long as there is anyone who genuinely admires you, you're a hero. Having one person who admires you for any reason is at the same time harder and easier than people might think. Admiration usually comes from you being able to do something that the other person can't do but wants to. For example, let's say you want to be an author and there is this very successful author you admire because you think they're an amazing writer and you want to write just as well as they do. So you practice and you practice hard and you become a published author. Then you practice even harder and become a successful author, and then you practice even harder and become an author that is just as or even more successful than the one you admired. So now that you're on the same level, or even better, do you think that you'd still admire that person, or would that admiration have turned to respect? So someone who was once your hero is now just a colleague that you respect. It's true that respect and admiration aren't that different from each other, and often go hand in hand. Some might even use them as synonyms occasionally. But there is a difference. Let's reuse my earlier example. You can definitely respect an author without admiring them, but I don't think that the opposite is true. You can actually admire someone, truly admire someone, like in the hero sense of the word, without respecting them. It's a real square and rectangle situation. In my opinion, that in and of itself proves that there is a difference between respect and admiration. Now, the reason why I took these past couple of minutes from my life to define a hero is that I'm going to tell you why not even one of the protagonists in any of the 3 shorts from Modest Heroes is actually a hero. And yes, I'm including the guy who jumped in front of a truck to save a baby. He is not a hero. But I'm also going to talk about why there is still one hero in every one of the shorts, although it might not be who you expect, especially for the second one. Let's go in order with the first one. It's called Kanini and Kanino. In it, there is a family of mini people who are roughly the size of a thumb, maybe even smaller, that live underwater. In the short, Kanini and Kanino's dad gets swept away by a strong current during a storm, and they go on a little adventure to find him. After watching this short, you might mistake Kanini as the hero because he's the one who holds off the monster fish and has his moment of courage at the end of the short. But the hero is actually his father, Tata. This is because no one in the movie shows any signs of admiration towards Kanini, like at all. While both Kanini and his sister Kanino show obvious signs of admiration towards their father, with the opening scene being a perfect example of this, where the 2 siblings are having a hard time catching fish, while their father does it with seemingly little effort, and they treat him with admiration in response. Also, when you think about it, it's pretty common for a child to see one or both of their parents as heroes, as someone they look up to. Next up is Life Ain't Gonna Lose, which is the one with the kid who's allergic to eggs and has a mother that is justifiably slightly paranoid about her son maybe going bye-bye. And I say justifiably because everything has eggs, like everything. This kid almost dies pretty much from every other meal. There is this one scene where he and his mother go into a diner to wait out the rain, and his mother looks at the menu and literally can't even find one thing that doesn't have eggs in it, and so they just end up ordering drinks. They make it look like the kid's a hero at the end because he starts learning how to live with and accept his allergy, but no, he's not. Not even close. It's commendable, but it's not admirable. Or at least in this movie, it's not admired. And we both know that you need someone to admire you in order to be a hero, and nobody admires this kid. The one single contender for someone who admires this kid is a little girl who's a school friend of his, and it would be a mistake to call that admiration. She's just worried about him. So if it's not the kid, then it must be his mother, who constantly saves him from the clutches of death. But no, again we run into the same problem. What she does is commendable, but still no one admires her, so she can't be a hero. Now, you might be asking yourself, then who's left? We've gone through literally the entire cast. Who's the hero? Well, it's that baseball player the kid was watching on TV. Now, I know what you're thinking, but hear me out. The kid shows very obvious signs of admiration towards that player, mostly through mimicry. So this is a pretty classic case of I like something, so my hero is who I think is best at it. He wants to be as good a player as the one he's watching on TV, so he copies everything he does. That's obvious admiration, if you ask me. So yes, the baseball player from the scene where the kid watches TV is the hero in this short. The third and final short is called Invisible, which is about an invisible, weightless man. In fact, he is so invisible that the world doesn't even recognize his existence. People can't see him even though he does wear clothes, automatic doors don't open for him, drivers don't see him as he's passing the street, even purchasing basic necessities like food is borderline impossible. In one scene, he goes to a supermarket and has to wait for someone else to come along just so the door will open. Then the ATM in the store doesn't work for him because if he doesn't exist, then why would his ATM code even work? Then he wants to buy a small pastry with the little change he has on him, but the cashier doesn't notice he's even there, so he can't buy it. Thus, he leaves it on the counter and goes away because he's a good guy who doesn't steal shit. In this short, finding the hero takes a bit of speculation on my part, but first I have to debunk the Invisible Man's heroic status that you might have given him after he saved a baby from being hit by a truck. As we've previously established, in order to be a hero, you need to be someone's hero, meaning they need to recognize that you exist, for starters. And you might think that that smile that the baby gives the Invisible Man at the end of the movie means that she does recognize his existence. But I don't think that's actually the case. We saw that when the Invisible Man saved the baby, its family weren't all that far away. In fact, they were relatively close, and we also saw that they were sprinting in the baby's direction. And because it took a little while before the baby smiled at the Invisible Man, I think that that was enough time for the family to get close enough for the baby to recognize them. And the baby smiles at them through the Invisible Man and not at the Invisible Man. Furthermore, I think the shot was purposely framed as it was so that there would be no way for us to definitively say who the baby was smiling at. So, if the Invisible Man who saved the baby from being run over by a truck isn't the hero of this short, who is? It's the guy who's walking his dog, aka the only person in the entire film we know can see the Invisible Man. And I think that he can see him because he's also an Invisible Man. Although again, the director frames the shots specifically in a way that we won't be able to definitively say whether or not the dog walker is also invisible. But I do think that in a way, it's actually proof that he is invisible. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's look into why I think the dog walker is the hero of this short. I think that the dog walker inspired our Invisible Man and gave him hope. By seeing another Invisible Man who looked like he has his life together, our guy became hopeful that one day he could be like that. And when our guy looked up towards the dog walker, it was clearly a look of admiration. So yeah, I think the guy who walks his dog in this short is the hero. By seeing another invisible man who looked like he has his life together, our guy became hopeful that one day, maybe he could be like that. And when our invisible guy looked up towards the dog walker, it was clearly a look of admiration. So yeah, I think the guy who walks his dog is the hero in the short Invisible, and not the guy who saved a baby. Finally, I do recommend you watch the Modest Heroes short film collection if you haven't, and please notify me through the comments section if you're on YouTube, or through my website if you're on one of the podcasts platforms. You can access the website in the show notes below. Tell me what you think about the episode. Did you like it, or would you like to hear more episodes like it? Or you can just comment whatever you want. Please like, subscribe, and share with friends. It helps me a lot, and I greatly appreciate it.